And welcome back to the European Commission in Brussels for the second part of Talking Europe. My guest today is Laszlo Andor, is the EU Commissioner in charge of employment. Since the beginning of the crisis, unemployment across the Union has risen from 7 to 10%. And these figures are likely to rise even further as some EU member states are plunging back into recession. I'll give you another figure. In Spain, 48% of young people are unemployed. They cannot find a job. It's obviously a very pressing issue for Europe, and we're going to talk about all this with Mr. Andor. Thank you for having us here at the Commission. So yes, figures don't look very good, don't look very bright for the future. Unemployment has been rising, poised to rise even further. Do you see light at the end of the tunnel?
Well, there is definitely light at the end of the tunnel. It's very important that the European Council now opened up the agenda and completing work on fiscal consolidation, coordination of fiscal policies, austerity, stability. Now there is more emphasis on growth and also job creation. This is a new opening, and that brings the light that if we can also take action and not simply start speaking a new language, there is definitely a possibility to improve the landscape. But as you just said it, we are sliding back to a recession in the first half of this year. There was actually a recovery last year. It started in a way that also managed to reduce unemployment month by month. The problem is that now it's reversed, and now there is deceleration and increasing unemployment again.
Are you saying that we are partly paying the price for 4 years of harsh austerity policies?
Well, first there was expansion. Fiscal expansion was the response to the recession. I think it was right. It was coordinated. Maybe it could have been coordinated better. But I think it was necessary to respond to the financial meltdown and the risk of a very deep recession and contraction of the economy by fiscal deficits. The question is how to coordinate it in a monetary union in order to avoid undermining the recovery, to reconcile fiscal consolidation with economic growth.
What can Europe learn from the rest of the world? It's very striking. If you look at the United States, there unemployment peaked at 10% in 2009, but has fallen gradually to 8.5%. So in America, unemployment is falling. In Europe, it's rising. Surely there must be something to learn from the United States.
Exactly. There are some significant differences. I just came back from the United States yesterday after a 6-day tour in Washington and New York. And in the comparison, Europe looks better if you look at the early phase of the crisis, because the European member states protected employment better. The rise was sharper in the United States in the early phase of the crisis. Now the US is emerging in a more robust way from the recession, and also unemployment started to fall in a very convincing way on the other side of the Atlantic. It is mainly because the US on the federal level has instruments to increase demand. Their policy is predominantly demand side, while Europe, the European employment strategy, is predominantly a supply-side policy. It's about boosting the employability of the labor force without a lot of instruments to create jobs immediately in the very short run.
Now, another case, of course, is Germany. It's striking that Germany now enjoys the lowest unemployment rate since reunification, while unemployment in other countries, I'm thinking of Spain, has been rising dramatically. Can we apply the German model to the rest of Europe?
I think we can learn a lot. All countries can learn a lot from Germany and a few other countries that are good. Austria is also a very good performer. The Netherlands is also a very good performer. And there are some key factors that create these success stories. First of all, of course, there is economic competitiveness, but also a fact that this competitiveness is linked to a lot of investment in human resources. Very good training systems. The famous dual vocational training, I think, is one of the key factors that produce these good results, and the strong link between the education system and the labor market, which makes the transition easier and faster for the young people. The social dialogue played a strong role in Germany and also other countries in responding the early phase of the crisis and lowering the number of redundancies when the recession hit and the economy was contracting also in those countries. But the labor market impact was pretty much modest.
In France, where the German model has been very heatedly debated in recent weeks, the French president has floated the idea of organising a referendum on job seekers. He says he wants to know whether the French would like to see the rules for job seekers toughened and see whether, for instance, an unemployed person who is receiving benefits and refuses a job or training could well lose these benefits. Do you welcome such a move? Do you think that the rules should be toughened to encourage people to look for jobs more actively?
Well, first of all, I believe that the job seekers should be assisted. It's very important that the public employment services assist the job seekers to find new opportunities. We need to provide also a lot of assistance cross-border. Very often in an enlarged and a little bit imbalanced European economy, the vacancies are in a different country, in a different region than the large unemployment. And that's why much of this assistance has to be provided to people, especially young people, to find out about these opportunities in a different environment.
So you want to increase job mobility. For instance, an unemployed young person in Portugal should be encouraged to look for a job in Denmark or Austria.
Exactly. We have to make the European labour market more transparent. We are developing in the European Commission a new vacancy monitor, which would help the understanding, and we also support financially those young people who want to find a job in another country. And student mobility is also very important because that creates a basis, skills, understanding of other cultures for professional mobility. So shifting all the blame on the job seekers, I don't think it's right. You can look at in individual countries how the incentives could be changed, but certainly, punishing the victims of the large unemployment is not the right approach.
Laszlo Andor, as you said earlier, what is striking is the growing gap between the different member states. There's a clear north-south divide. Let's take an example. In Spain, unemployment is 5 times higher than in Austria. We're going to talk about all this in a moment, but first, let's have a look at our report.
Jobless. Today's reality for 16.5 million people in the Eurozone. The latest unemployment figures show record highs since 1998. Greece and Spain will have the toughest task at hand as they're burdened by the longest dole queues. In Spain, more than a fifth of the population are out of work. Its neighbour Portugal is not faring much better, with 13.6% unemployed, while Greece has close to 20% of its population struggling without work. But it's not a uniform picture across the Eurozone. Germany, for one, is proving its resilience amid the global recession. Its unemployment rate has fallen to a record low of 6.7%. It's yet to surpass Austria, however, which boasts the Eurozone lowest jobless rate at 4.1%. The country suffering the most will be vying for a chunk of the €82 billion the EU leaders have set aside to boost job creation, but it's feared the money won't flow to where it's needed quickly. With criticism it hasn't been addressed effectively in the new fiscal compact. In a further blow to Europe's hopes of recovery, economists expect the number of people out of work to increase throughout 2012.
As we heard, the leaders are now talking about using structural funds. These are funds that are available here at the Commission, but which haven't been used. What would you like to do with these funds? And let me ask you very simply, why haven't these funds been used? If the money is there, surely you may want to spend it to boost employment.
Well, we are in the second half of the financial period. And obviously, not all the funds have been used, and there is always a kind of standard delay with using the funds. Some of the funds actually are implemented after the financial planning period is over. So there is nothing unnatural in that, although it might be said that in some countries, actually, the crisis itself resulted in delays. Because the matching funds were missing or there were administrative difficulties, too many changes in governments and so on and so forth. So this can result in delays. The point is that large sums are uncommitted. And these should be now used with priority on employment, and especially youth employment. This is what the Commission proposed in December, and now the European Council seems to agree. And with this political backing, my services from the DG Employment in Brussels approach the 8 member states, the managing authorities, where the problems are the greatest, where the youth unemployment is the greatest, in order to find new ways and new solutions, new projects to alleviate the situation.
But very concretely, you were mentioning youth unemployment. This is the most pressing issue, as we said earlier. In Spain, 1 out of 2 young people can't find jobs. What can you do concretely to give these people a job?
Well, also in Spain, as in other countries, there can be apprenticeships created for the young people. We are working with Business Europe on the EU level, but also the affiliates in the Spanish context, in order to trigger and invite commitments from business to create these positions. Also, Spain can change taxation, and by shifting taxes away from labor, there can be a possibility to increase the demand from the enterprise sector for new employment. Spain can also continue labour market reforms. I believe this is still a possibility, although you cannot simply assume that by labour market flexibilization everything will be suddenly
resolved. When you say
solved.
changing the labour policies, what do you mean exactly? Should people be encouraged to work more, or do you want to make the system more flexible?
Well, there is a need for some more flexibility. In Spain, the problem is the segmentation of the labour market, that there are some workers who are very well protected, and some others who are not protected at all and don't have a chance to get an open-ended contract. And that's why we believe that the two should converge. This segmentation is not healthy, is not productive, and somehow new opportunities should be created to the young people, also by adopting some reforms. Flexibilization, it is definitely, but Spain has already adopted a serious pension reform which helps increasing the age of activity in the economy.
You said that labour costs is too high at the moment in Europe. If you want to bring the social charges down, you need to find the money somewhere else. Are you in favour of transferring these costs to VAT, for instance?
Well, the Commission has put forward some alternatives, like the financial transaction tax is one of these opportunities. Taxes on energy or carbon. So there are many alternatives, not only VAT. VAT might be, it's a very reliable cash producer for the national budgets, but we should be more innovative in finding the necessary revenues.
Now let's talk about your country of origin, Hungary. The Conservative government of Prime Minister Viktor Orbán is facing infringement procedures from the very European Commission, which believes that a package of new laws infringes on democracy and European values. Hungary has got until February 17th to rework the laws. Are you confident that Viktor Orbán will listen to what the EU Commission had to say?
Well, we have received a lot of messages that the government is working hard to comply with the requirements of the European Commission, and I agree with my colleagues Viviane Reding, Olli Rehn, who proposed these infringement procedures, that this is a very serious matter, and we have to really seriously ask the Hungarian government to change certain laws, but also kind of the general attitude, which was not always cooperative vis-à-vis the European institutions. And from the beginning of this year, I think we are witnessing a different approach, more dialogue, more cooperation, and probably a readiness to comply fully with EU law in the areas that have been mentioned, the question of justice, the independence of justice, the independence of the central bank, the independence of media, and other issues as well.
These are, of course, very serious matters. As you say, it's very important for the Commission not to create or to allow a precedent to take place in Europe. Are you confident that the European Commission will stand firm? Because on paper, if by February 17th things haven't changed, the EU Commission can take the case to the European Court of Justice.
Well, the Commission stands firm because it's important not only for the Commission but the citizens. I think it's very important for society, also the Hungarian people, to maintain a political structure which fits well in the European set of values and principles and lives in harmony with other 26 European member states.
And it's not the case at the moment.
Well, there were serious doubts. I think some of the legislation was indeed pretty controversial. Personally, I'm also looking at the labour legislation of the December period, and we have to now see that the new language, the new approach, the new gestures which we receive also translate to a different type of behaviour.
One of the issues, of course, is the lowering of the retirement age of judges. Why does that cause concerns here in Brussels?
Well, the retirement age of a specific profession can be discriminatory if it deviates strongly from the general retirement age, especially it is set in a context when a large number of new senior judges can be appointed by the same government.
László Andor, EU Commissioner in charge of employment, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And thank you for watching this edition of Talking Europe from Brussels. Please stay tuned on our channel for more news. Goodbye.